A relative who secretly resents you will rarely say it directly. They may smile, they may ask questions, they may tell you they are only trying to help. But something changes when you begin to grow. Your good news becomes uncomfortable. Your confidence becomes too much. Your boundaries become attitude. And because this is family, you may keep ignoring what you feel. You tell yourself, maybe I am overthinking. Maybe I should be more understanding. Maybe I should keep the peace. But peace is not the same as silence, and loyalty does not require you to abandon yourself. Family resentment is difficult to name because it often arrives wearing familiar clothes: advice, concern, humor, and the expectation that you should tolerate more simply because you share history. That is exactly why clarity matters. Before we go further, remember this. One awkward moment proves nothing. Repeated patterns do. This video is not about judging every relative. It is about noticing 7 patterns that quietly damage your self-respect. Because your intuition is a signal. The pattern is the proof. The first sign is simple. They make your progress feel smaller than it is. You share a promotion, a new project, a personal breakthrough, a week where you finally feel better. And instead of warmth, you hear, "That is nice, but do not get too excited." Anyone could do that. Let us see how long it lasts. Sometimes they change the subject immediately. Sometimes they compare you to someone else. Sometimes they turn your moment into a warning. Real support does not need rehearsal. A healthy relative does not have to understand every goal you have, but they can still respect your happiness. Watch their face, not just their words. Do they light up naturally? Or do they need a second to perform support? One delayed smile does not prove resentment. But if your wins repeatedly make them colder, believe the pattern. Watch how they treat you when you start rising. The second sign is more subtle. Some relatives seem most supportive when you are struggling. They call, they listen, they offer advice. They feel close to you when you need help. But when you become stronger, more independent, or more confident, the relationship changes. The calls become less warm. The support becomes slower. The jokes become sharper. Why? Because your struggle gave them a role. It made them feel needed. It made the balance familiar. Your growth changes that balance. Healthy love wants you to heal, even if healing makes you less dependent. Resentment often wants you close, but small. Sometimes the resentment is not fully conscious. They may not admit it even to themselves. But you do not need to diagnose their motives. You only need to notice the effect of the repeated behavior. Ask yourself, do they celebrate my independence? Or do they only feel comfortable when I need their approval? The third sign often hides behind concern. They say, "I am only being realistic. I just do not want you to get hurt. I know you better than anyone." But after every conversation, you feel smaller. Their advice does not create clarity. It creates hesitation. They question your plans before you begin. They focus on every risk. They remind you of old mistakes. They make confidence sound like arrogance. Good advice can challenge you, but it should not consistently erase your sense of self. Pay attention to the emotional result. Do you leave the conversation feeling grounded, or do you leave feeling guilty for wanting more? Concern can be real, but repeated doubt disguised as concern can become a quiet form of control. A useful question is this: does their advice help you think more clearly, or does it repeatedly leave you afraid to trust your own judgment? Support may challenge you. Control makes you dependent on the person giving the advice. The fourth sign appears as a joke, at dinner, at a family gathering, in front of people whose opinions matter to you. They mention your old mistakes, mock your goals, bring up private details, then laugh and say, "Relax, you're too sensitive." I was just joking. But a joke stops being harmless when it repeatedly costs you your dignity. Humor can be warm. It can build connection. But humiliation disguised as humor is still humiliation. Do not argue for 20 minutes. Stay calm. Say, "That was disrespectful." Then stop talking. Let the silence do the rest. The goal is not to win the room. The goal is to stop teaching people that your dignity is available for entertainment. Notice what happens next. A respectful person may apologize or adjust. A resentful person often blames you for reacting, as if your boundary is the real problem. The fifth sign is about access. They ask many questions. What are you planning? How much are you earning? What happened in your relationship? Why are you making that decision? At first, it may feel like care. But later, your private life returns to you through someone else. Your plans become family discussion. Your struggles become gossip. Your decisions become material for judgment. Privacy is not secrecy. It is protection. Not every plan needs an audience. Not every struggle belongs in every conversation. Not every relative earns full access to your inner world. Share less. Explain less. Give access slowly. Trust should be earned through consistency, not assumed because of blood. You do not have to announce that you are sharing less. You do not need a dramatic speech. Let your privacy become a quiet boundary. The sixth sign is triangulation. Instead of speaking to you directly, they recruit other family members. Suddenly, someone else is calling you. Someone else is telling you to apologize. Someone else is repeating a version of the story you never said. This creates confusion. You start defending yourself to people who were not part of the original issue. You feel pressure to restore peace, even when you did not create the problem. Do not chase every misunderstanding. Do not hold a courtroom inside your family. If a conversation needs to happen, return it to the person involved. Say, "I am willing to discuss this directly, but I will not argue through other people." That is not cold. That is clear. You are allowed to step out of drama that depends on pulling you into the middle. Clarity becomes easier when you refuse to defend yourself in 5 different conversations about one issue. Keep the conversation where it belongs. The seventh sign reveals the most. You stop oversharing. You say no. You leave a disrespectful conversation. You limit how often you visit. You refuse to explain every decision. And suddenly, they call you selfish, cold, ungrateful, difficult. But a healthy relationship may feel disappointed by a boundary and still respect it. A controlling dynamic feels threatened by a boundary because the boundary reduces access. A boundary without a consequence is just a wish. If someone crosses the line, speak clearly. Say, "I am not continuing this conversation if I am being spoken to like that." Then follow through. Leave the room. End the call. Change the subject. Reduce contact if the pattern continues. Distance is not revenge. It is protection. The purpose of a boundary is not to punish anyone. It is to make your life safer, calmer, and more honest. So what do you do when these patterns repeat? First, stop trying to convince everyone. The less you explain, the less they can manipulate. Second, limit access. Some relationships do not need to end completely. They may simply need shorter conversations, fewer private details, safer topics, and stronger boundaries. Third, stop waiting for a person to become who you needed them to be. Acceptance is not approval. It is the decision to stop spending your life negotiating with reality. And if the relationship includes emotional abuse, physical harm, financial control, or constant damage to your mental health, creating greater distance may be necessary. If you feel unsafe, seek support from someone trustworthy or a qualified professional. You do not have to solve a harmful family system alone. You do not owe anyone unlimited access to you just because you share blood. Before we close, hear this clearly. You are not stupid for caring. You are not weak for giving chances. You were taught to see the best in people before you learned to see the truth in them. Now you can do both. You can be kind and smart at the same time. You can love your family without accepting every behavior. You can grieve the relationship you wanted while protecting the person you are becoming. You can keep your heart open without leaving the door unlocked. Start small. Notice one repeated pattern. Protect one private detail. Set one calm boundary. Choose one safe person who makes you feel more grounded, not less. And remember, your intuition is a signal. The pattern is the proof. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It is self-respect. If this message spoke to you, comment one word: clarity. Then subscribe, because healing does not always begin with confrontation. Sometimes it begins with finally believing what repeated behavior has been showing you.